Women of Power podcast is a platform for passionate and influential women who are catalysts for change, pioneers in their fields, the change makers, the trailblazers, performers and influencers, driven entrepreneurs and professionals. They play a vital role in driving economic growth and bridging the talent shortages across organizations of various scales. Building cause-based businesses to create positive impact in their communities and towards sustainable goals for the people, planet, and prosperity. In every industry, women are shattering barriers and strive to create a space where they can exhibit their achievements and motivate other women to unleash their limitless potential. We encourage collaboration, networking, and knowledge sharing among women. Let's inspire and learn from one another while sharing our valuable experiences. Thank you for joining us and listening to this episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Women of Power. Women of Power podcast is a platform for passionate and influential women who are the catalyst of change, pioneers of their field, the change makers, the trailblazers, performers, and the influencer, and driven entrepreneurs and professionals. They play a vital role in driving economic growth and bridging the talent shortages across the organization of various scales. Building cause-based businesses to create positive impact in their communities and towards sustainable goals for the people, planet, and prosperity. Women of Power is a dynamic platform that recognizes the incredible potential of women as a driving force behind the global economic growth. It is a platform that celebrates and empowers the women of passion and power. Today, my guest, Dr. Marcea Whitaker, I had the pleasure of meeting her recently and was really impressed on her accomplishments and being a medical doctor. I repeat, being a medical doctor, the transition she took in a very different area of inspiring women. So we'll have Dr. Whitaker talk about herself a little bit more. Welcome to the show, Dr. Marcea Whitaker.
Thank you so much, Ritu. It's such a pleasure to be on the Women of Power podcast. I'm excited about where our conversation is going to go today.
Okay, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Absolutely. So I'm Dr. Marcea Whitaker, and I am trained as a physician and have been one for over 30 years. And maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I did a little bit of a shift into becoming a life coach. And that was based off of some personal struggles that I was going through. I knew I needed what I called a life coach. I didn't know that person existed, and went down this journey, and this has been filling up my being, if you will, for the last 5 years. I'm also a speaker, international speaker, also a best-selling author, also do leadership training, and also a business coach that has kind of evolved through my life coaching.
Wow. Wow. I am impressed. I mean, I call myself, a techie runaway filmmaker and coach. So going into a complete direction, sometimes people are blown away. Yeah, how did you go in that direction? How did this happen? So I'm sure, as you had said, that there are some personal life events maybe took you that road and then you didn't even know if this exists.
Right. Exactly.
Right. All right. So still good. So 30 years in medical medicine, it's a long career,
It is.
very long career. Are you still a practicing physician?
So I am not a practicing physician. I stepped away roughly during the pandemic.
Okay.
At the time, I also have federal government experience,
Mhm.
and in that moment, I didn't need to go and do a shift or two and potentially get COVID when I already had a job that was sustaining me. So in that moment, I decided, you know what, let me protect my family. And that's when I kind of just stepped away.
Okay. So as women, we juggle too many roles. Families matter. Not, I'm not saying that it doesn't matter to other gender or men. No, not at all. Is my intention here. Women take priority always. It's
Mhm.
just kind of our unwritten rule and role that we do have that. So um, it must have been a very difficult choice.
Well, the other piece of it, and I mentioned some of the personal, I had just I was separated at the time, and I was the sole caregiver for my children. And so it wasn't a difficult decision. It was you know what? I am the sole provider. And in order for me to protect my children, I made the decision to step away.
Okay, fair enough. It's just that I just want to I wanted to ask the question is just because there are a lot of listeners out there might be listening to our conversation and
Mhm.
say they find themselves in a bind and they
Yes.
find sometimes, it's very dividing in our thought process to go one way or another. So these kinds of decisions, when they hear that people, they are not unique in their situation, it happens to a lot of us.
Yeah.
We have to step up at that time, make the right decisions as they arise. So, but thank you for sharing that. Uh, I know that you founded Girl Boss Life Academy
Mhm.
to help women redefine their mindsets. We'll talk more about it. You have been featured in Forbes and you also host the Sis Up Women Empowerment Radio show. Wow. All right. So I have questions to ask, so we'll get started with those. So, okay. So you had remarkable career for decades in medicine. You moved to coaching, public speaking. I know you touched a little bit what inspired you to pursue such a diverse professional path. Anything that you would like to share uh, while life coaching? I mean,
Mhm.
as a businesswoman, you could have many different options.
Yeah, and that is a great question. And what ended up happening is even though I was good at medicine, it was stressful. It was it was anxiety provoking because of one, I mean, I always wanted to make sure I got it right. I always wanted to make sure I got the diagnosis right. I always wanted to make sure I was serving the patient, even when it was not medicine related. So, for example, if they came in and they wanted a note for work for because they didn't want to go to work for whatever reason, whether it was jury duty or whatever, there's still a way to make sure the patient has the experience, maybe not what they wanted, but I have to reframe it so I give them what is within my power to give and I can justify it, but they walk out feeling like they got what they wanted.
Hmm.
And that by itself is a huge feat. And it's stressful. And even though I was good at it, I knew it wasn't my passion. And so I spent many years, I would say I probably spent 10 years trying to find that thing that was my passion. And I'm sure you've heard of folks who say, you know what, I would do this if I wasn't getting paid. This is my life's purpose. And I was like, I don't have that. And as I went down the road of searching for it, I finally I found it by accident because I started becoming a health coach
Hmm.
because I'm a physician, health coach. Okay, they're connected. And so even though I was in the training, I was like, yeah, this is a little bit too much like what I normally do. And my program actually had a dual certification where I could become a health coach and become a life coach. And I was like, okay, let me dip my foot into this life coaching thing. And when I did that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the thing. This is the part that and that I could do that it's not even hard. It's something that I do innately. And I'm like, okay, this I jump out of bed for. This I could do without getting paid. I'm like, this is it.
Okay. It's wonderful that feeling to find our passion or path, right?
Yeah.
So when you are willing to do something without being paid, of course you want to be paid. We need, coaches need to make living as well.
Exactly. We have to eat too.
Yeah, of course you got to pay the bills and stuff. I get it, but that's the passion. Then once you work for your passion, you don't feel like it's being work, right?
Exactly.
I'm sure there are a lot of challenging moments in every kind of profession, like you described in medical profession. You have to justify it in your heart and mind what you do to kind of keep you fulfilled.
Yeah.
Same thing. I had my journey into it too. So, but today I'm asking questions, so I don't want to go into my
No,
personal.
no, I want to hear. Go ahead, share.
Well, I by the turn of century or the Y2K, I was getting into IT at that time, and a young mother, and so juggling too many things and stuff. Um, Personal challenges and my interest in spirituality and of philosophy, which being a techie was went to business school, total different direction because of the life circumstances I was very much drawn into. By profession, I was exposed to a lot of leadership training by my work, and personally, I was trying to understand human behavior. Somewhere they both parallel work. Here on one side, managing people and processes. On the other side, I'm trying to understand human behavior and people. So I think life coaching fell into it.
Mhm.
So interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, all right. So as a master destiny coach, what's the most common obstacle you see holding people back um, from
It's
achieving what they want to really achieve?
Yeah. The number one thing that holds people back is themselves. It's their mindset. And whether it is from fear of failure, but then it's also fear of success
Both,
and fear of not knowing what's going to happen next.
always, always. I was going to say it's fear takes number one in the list of things: fear of success, fear of failure, unknown, all different kinds of fears is at the top of the list. There are other things, yes, logically, of course, but how do you find coaching helps them to get out of there?
Yeah. So I'll speak on it from a place of if you have a child, let's say a male child, and they want to play baseball and they don't know how to play baseball. What you would do is you would get them a coach. And even through Major League Baseball, they have a head coach, there's a pitching coach, there's a defensive coach, there's a batting coach. There's all of these different coaches in different realms to help you get better in that one area. And even if that coach never made it to the major leagues, they are skilled in helping you see maybe your angle of your elbow isn't right. Maybe you need to work on your speed. Maybe you need to get into the weight room and get some muscles. And so the same process applies to the mindset. When you have someone who's skilled in getting you to see perspective, kind of having you pan out and ask those questions that make you say, okay, what if? Okay, well, maybe you're looking at it in, too close. Maybe what if the other person isn't doing you harm? What if you do know the answer? And so when you have somebody just to ask the question, what if, it changes your whole perspective. So now you can think about it differently. And that's what happens, through that coaching process. And now you can make a different decision at every moment of your life. That can change now the trajectory of where you're going and your destination.
Very true. And it takes someone else to point that out,
Yes.
right? And because for most people, looking back, I could say myself into those situations,
Yeah.
you become your biggest obstacle.
Yeah. And even when we think, even successful people need that coach. And if you think of a physician who's a surgeon and they need their appendix out, they're going to need someone else to do surgery on them. We don't take out our own appendix. We allow someone else who is skilled in that area to come in and operate on us. And so there has to be that place of vulnerability. It has to be say, you know what? I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And I need someone to help me so that I can become more successful, so that I can close the time gap between where I'm trying to go and where I am. And who wouldn't sign on for that?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. We need others to look at, find out blind spots, and be vulnerable and allow that space. And I think there is a lot of growth without us learning from our experiences, losing the valuable time in years and years, then have, no, just kind of tap yourself there. Hey, I need to have this conversation with someone. And so, in other words, that your transition, I'm just kind of looking into, you always dealt with people, your patients, new people always coming in, and maybe parents bringing the children or young adults or so. So you deal with large number of people.
Mhm.
Dealing with people, understanding their fears, questions they ask or questions they don't ask makes you skilled, right?
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
all the time people are asking questions, but you, on the other end, know that what the other person should be asking.
Yes. Yes. One of the things that I say is that I hear what people say, and I also hear what they don't say. And I do have enough, and believe it or not, physicians are coaches. We don't always um,
Identify it as
identify,
well.
but our whole process of interviewing people, we're asking questions. We're asking what brings you in today. Okay, well, do you have shortness of breath with it? Do you have chest pain? Do you feel lightheaded? Do you feel dizzy? And then we go through their whole review of systems, and then we are formulating what it is that we're thinking. And so by definition, I've learned how to ask powerful questions already to get to a diagnosis. And the other thing I say is that as a physician, I'm an internal medicine physician, so I was helping to heal from the inside out from an internal medicine perspective, but I'm doing the same thing as a life coach. I'm healing from the inside out from a mindset perspective. And so I'm really doing the same thing that I was trained to do, but in a different way. They're both powerful, but just in a different way.
Beautifully said. Healing. Healing has become so important in our chaotic world. Um, uh, you know, 20 years ago, maybe there wasn't as much emphasis on healing than I see and hear now.
Mhm.
And I ponder over it and I see that our lives were simpler with the lack of social media or lack of overload of information or stress of um, the cost of living or whatever, or then we come into the world that overload of information are uh, you know uh, pulling our attention all over the place.
Mhm.
Young parents, I was giving a seminar and then I had somewhere conversation, question came and a conversation went into a different direction. And at that time, I found myself giving that example of that, how young parents now have to be skilled on or uh, educate themselves how to help their kids with cyberbullying. I, as a parent, never thought of that. My parents didn't even know what the word didn't even exist at that time. Things have changed.
Mhm.
So I think, as you had said, the healing, it has become open to talk about it, that we need it.
Yeah.
And I congratulate you doing this work, and you chose the right transition.
Thank you.
Yes. So tell me, you're an international speaker, you're an author, and you have traveled. Something travel does changes our own perspective because we see cultures handling the similar situation differently.
Mhm. Mhm.
How your travels have changed your perspective.
One, I said this to someone recently, is that I've flown to different places so frequently that sometimes I don't even like remember where I am. And some places look similar to some other places. And I actually I was doing a presentation for a Liberian delegation, and I asked, what are the issues that women are faced with in, country X?
Mhm.
Because I'm trying to make sure that my message resonates. And what I found out is that they're the same concepts. There's still fear, there's still ambition, there's still family pulls and responsibilities and all of that. We're dealing with the same concepts, which I was like, wow. It speaks volumes. One is that we're still all the same, regardless of where we're living. The level may be a little different, but we're still dealing with the same core issues, and that is translatable.
Wow. It shows that the human needs are the same.
Mhm.
Our
Mhm.
needs, our basic needs are the same.
Same. Yeah, the same.
No matter where we live, the motherhood, the family, the cost of living affects families around the world. No
Mhm.
country is different, right? Our cultural values or traditions might be a little bit different. The concept are the same. This is very valuable to to think about how we have become a global village,
Yeah.
then we get to know and share our side of the stories that, and as a techie, I always, there were concepts when I was going through all those kinds of business methodologies, training, etc. So something that we had learned and my Six Sigma Green Belt certified black belt trained. So something that at the time was as we resolve issues and analyze things, someone somewhere has solved this problem.
Mhm.
And then we try to, brainstorm how do we go about solving these problems. It becomes really important to see humanity as a need, uh, as our basic needs are the same. Our challenges, many of the challenges we face today are the same.
Mhm.
It's just a different perspective, maybe different cultural mindset. I know you talked about mindset a few times, and I want to get there. But uh, in shaping your experiences into your practice as a coach, anything else you would like to add?
So, I think mindset, I think it's the main thing, right? It's the thing that changes everything. I mentioned about being a health coach, and what I found out was that yes, we could talk about someone's blood pressure. We could talk about how to change your eating habits. We can talk about how to drink more water. We can talk about your cholesterol. But it all comes down to mindset. And if you put that on hold for a second and go over to mindset and talk about how you choose yourself, like you put your mask on first before you put your mask on other people, and you figure out how to get how best you function. And that now talks about you having, some nighttime routines and eating better and exercising and going down and figuring out what thrills you, what on the inside, what makes you tick.
Yes.
If you focus on that,
Mhm.
the blood pressure is going to start to improve. Your weight is going to, go down. Your eating habits are going to improve. So if you do the mindset, now you get the overflow into the health. You get the overflow into the relationships. You get the overflow into those other areas. So if you start with the mindset, everything else will improve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think mindset is the key no matter what. Either you're looking at health, either you're looking at life, your work, your relationships.
Mhm.
What you believe here would guide you, be in front of you,
Yes.
and your actions follow. So
Yes.
that is very important. So I just want to continue on this conversation of the mindset. As a physician and a life coach, how do you see the connection between the physical and mental well-being?
Yeah.
Um, there's correlation, but in your perspective.
Yeah. They are definitely connected. And there's a saying that says, if you um how does it go? It says, if you believe that you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah. Yes.
So if you believe that you're going to get through the surgery without any complications, and you go in with that mindset, even though there's some other things that can happen, you're going to come out in a different space because if you, the amount of cortisol and stress hormones that are being expended when you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. What I need to write my will, or I think I'm going to get an infection, right? All of those stress hormones are going to now cause you not to heal as well. It's going to cause you to be in a different headspace. But if you're like, you know what? I've done everything I can do. Everything's going to be fine. I am making some preparation just in case, but I'm going to be good, then more than likely you're going to be okay. So we shoot ourselves in the foot by not believing that we can or that it will be good. And I think that's where one of the connections are. And then the other piece is, say you do have blood pressure problems and you come in as a physician, I'm pulling out my doctor pad to write a prescription. But as a coach, now going to say, you know what? What's important to the patient? Taking this pill, they don't want to take the pill. They want to work on their diet. Okay. Well, let's connect the diet to them. What's the big goal? The big goal is they want to retire and they want to travel the world. Okay, I see. I hear you. Now, what could happen is that you could have a stroke in the next couple of years because your blood pressure is high, but you want to travel the world. So what may be important to you is to get your blood pressure under control so that you can be at your healthiest so you can travel the world. And they're like, yeah, yeah, because I really am saving up. I'm working on my travel miles. I'm going to, I'm going to buy a boat so I can travel from port to port. Okay. So in order to get there, we're going to need to get your weight down. We're going to need for you to back off of the salt. Are you willing to back off the salt? Yeah, I'm willing to back off the salt. I'm even willing to start exercising. Okay. You said it. Now, I didn't say it. So now we have a plan in place that now you're going to do these things because you're now we've connected it, or there's a word I'm missing, but we have an anchor. We've anchored it in to you now being able to retire and travel the world.
Absolutely. When a person makes a decision, they have made a decision. You just become the path. You just become the observer.
Yes.
So the Dale Carnegie's quote, I remember, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still.
Ooh, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I find it so true. And I have witnessed many occasions where I have seen that in happening. You say something because of your authority or power in
Right.
office, but people do not agree to
Yes.
their opinion doesn't change.
Yeah. And that's why when the patients come back and you ask them if they've taken the medication and they're like, yeah, yes, I have, when they haven't, because they didn't agree. They agreed, they emptied the empty agreement where
Yes,
they said they are, and then they're going to lie to you. And so now I'm trying to put you on a second medication when you haven't taken the first.
yes.
And
So
that's a disconnect.
it is the uh, commitment has to come from them. And we talked about fear in the beginning, and it's just take the fear out of them. You put them in powerful position, give them the power to, or tap into their uh, heart in a way. You have this goal and a dream. You can do it, and uh,
Yes.
let them.
And the other, a more rudimentary, yeah, another rudimentary example is when you have a finicky kid who doesn't like food and they don't eat anything. So what do? We go to the grocery store, bring the kid with you. You let them pick out what they want to eat. You let them help prepare it. And so now when it's on the plate, now they eat it because they were part of the process.
They were part of the process, and I think that's where it's a win-win when people become part of the process of their own healing,
Yeah.
and their own success journey,
Mhm.
whatever success they're looking for.
Yep.
Yes. I know you have been named as the Women of the Year 24. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What do you believe key factors leading to this recognition?
One is that I am not trying to be something I'm not. I am just flowing in my gift. And there were lots of times coming through my journey where I just freely helped people. You know, if I hear something, somebody say something, I'm like, oh no, 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 no. Is it okay if I share a little bit? And I change, I gave transformation without any expectation of receiving payment or anything like that because I was concerned with who they were, and I was helping them along the way. And so when you do that from a clean and servant-based place, people will then give back, but not because I'm asking for it or looking for it. They'll just give. And so when you have a track record of doing that, people notice and they recognize what they see.
Very well said. Yes. And that's the when you come from the place of serving, right? It gets recognized. I congratulate you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
You're also best-selling author. The core message that readers take away from your books.
Books. All right. So I have a solo book called Mark from Birth, The Transformational Journey from Flawed to Fabulous. And that was my pretty much my story, my journey through a birthmark that's on my face. It's a greenish thing that you can kind of still see kind of an outline through here. Where as a child, it was something that was a major struggle for me. And it made me feel ugly. It made me feel like I was being stared at, that I was different, that I wasn't the same as other kids. And you can imagine through adolescence and even going to college, I tried to cover it up. And I think I did a very bad job covering it up, but it what it did, it left me thinking it was covered until I realized, you know what, I wasn't doing a good job. But what it did, it made me see people. I had to get to a place where if people didn't like me with the birthmark, they weren't going to like me otherwise. And I had to be okay with that. But what it also did, it gave me a sense of empathy for others and their feelings. And so I was always more concerned with other people's feelings than my own. And so that's the journey through that book. And then I did an anthology called Daddy's Girl, living after the legend. I living there's I'm missing a word, but it was a group of women living after the loss of a legend. And there were a group of women who were in my coaching group, and we had all lost our fathers. My parents were both killed in a car accident. Others, their fathers had died. Others, they lost them because they now a had dementia. And then my most recent book is called Destiny Expose, which is an anthology of powerful leaders where we share our destinies. And my particular chapter is called The Lead Hership Principle, and it is lead, learn, and leverage. And that book is about leadership, and every chapter has the word lead in it somehow. And we're sharing how we were able to overcome our struggle, our challenge, and use that as the framework for leadership.
Beautiful. And it is amazing that we have to go through a journey before we come to a destination where we know that, you know what? If people aren't going to like me because of XYZ, they're not going to like me. So you stop pleasing people. You
Yeah.
start being the real person the human being you are. But we have to go through the journey to get there,
We
right?
do. It's not, there's a saying that say that that success costs what it costs. It doesn't go on sale. You can't put it in your Amazon cart and come back for it. There's a price that needs to get paid. And the struggle, the problem is that most people don't want to pay it.
And we want to get there soon,
Yeah.
right? We want to get there soon. In 100 days, maybe 6 months, in a 1 year, we want to be,
Yeah.
have this, have that. I want to ask you, I'm just kind of so tempted to ask you,
Sure, go ahead.
uh, it's in this world, in our current scenarios, um, as mental health has become a common subject to be acknowledged and to be um, okay with the conversation to come up, etc. Do you see one generation or the other being prevalent when it comes to, as you coach clients, that they are either open to talk about it, or you see that they are uh, the prevalence is in a certain generation, but others
Yeah.
have the ability to deal with better?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. And the thing I can say, the global response is the older the client is, the more deep we hold those issues and those conversations. I think the younger generations, whether they're in their 20s, their 30s, even in the teenagers, and I have two teenager young adults, they are very in tune with their feelings,
Okay.
what they like, what they don't like, what they're going to stand up for, what they don't care about. And they are just more open to share that they're not okay. They don't like what you did. They're going to tell you what they think, and they don't care how you respond, because they're more open and they're just going to say it. And I applaud them, because even my daughter, she is very much like, hey, I'm not okay with this. And they're like, Mom, you need to stand up for yourself. And I'm like, okay, right? And they're like that
Yeah.
across the board, where this older generation, we're like, well, should we say that? Is it okay? How will somebody think? And so I think, so the younger that you are, the more open and more prevalent I think this whole mental health space is.
Yes, because I find it, in my own interaction with people, um, certain issues are common among one generation and their reaction to it, holding on to it. But if this, that the other generation deals similar type of issue very differently, right? So I just thought to ask, it's just me,
No, no,
or
it's generational. But on the flip side, it comes with the positive, negative, if you would. I think the older generations are more hardworking, right? I'm
okay,
gonna say
thanks.
we're the ones that we're gonna go to work sick. We're not going to take off work. We're going to continue moving. We're going to allow ourselves to suffer, if you will, for the sake of the big picture. The younger generation, it's a me, me, me. If I don't want to go to work, I don't want to go to school, they won't miss me. They don't care. So I think there's pros and cons along the way. And again, we're generalizing. So if those
Yeah,
are listening,
yeah,
making generalizations,
yeah.
they are very hardworking, you know, millennials and young adults. We just see things a little differently. And so we're just kind of making kind of,
A general conversation. Yes,
yeah.
no, I agree with you on that. In my interaction with, I have come across some amazing, intelligent young women. Their vision is so big. right? So I bless them, I congratulate them. Get alive. Find people to mentor you. Don't hesitate to reach out, right?
Yeah.
So yes, you got to do that because there is every generation brings their unique set of abilities and the mindset, etc. So the generation my parents grew up and I grew up and my children are growing up, it's very different externally, and so we bring that in. So the fabulous conversation, and I want to ask you that what's based on where you are right now in your uh, path on this newfound transition. Maybe not so much newfound, you found it, you're on it. So looking ahead, what's your vision for the future on women empowerment?
Yeah. I think it's always going to be someplace to go, meaning there's some improvement. And I believe that every woman has their moment of transformation. And I'm gonna use the example of going from a caterpillar to a butterfly.
Mhm.
And what happens is that there is a situation that happens that changes us to the point where, because we're nurturers, we will nurture a situation until we get to a point where we realize, hey, I'm the one suffering.
Yeah.
And we come to realization that, hey, this is not okay. And now we make a decision that now I have to save, not save yourself, but you have to put yourself above the needs of everyone else. And when I say that as a parent, I don't really mean it's going to stay that way forever. It just means at some moment you have to decide, you know what, my mental health is more important. And so we cannot continue doing the same process every day of the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
For there's a moment where, yes, the kids take precedence. Yes, the infant is hungry. I need to take care of them. I need to change their diaper. But at some point, Johnny has to realize, okay, well, mom needs a day away. I would call it the mommy store is closed. Okay, mommy has been on since 6 a.m. We've done all the things that Johnny wanted. Now it's 9:30. It's time for Johnny to go to bed, and the mommy store is closed. That's me in that moment saying, you know what? I'm now more important because I have these other things I want to take care of, and mommy needs a moment.
Yes, agree. The reset and a self-care is important
Yeah.
to rejuvenate ourselves and come back to the same routine next day. It is important, right? As a human being, as a species, we all need that, right?
Yes.
So to allow ourselves to take a break, I know as a young parent, taking time to myself, I felt guilty. And it took me a long time to say, now they're grown. They're grown. They're taking care of themselves. They're taking good
Yeah.
care of themselves. They don't need mommy near them.
Yeah.
But mommy needs to take care of herself too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have to applaud my son. He's 17, and I mentioned I was on travel this week. I had gone to New York for a couple of days, and then I was in Detroit for about 4 or 5 days. And I had booked my flights before my son's basketball schedule had come out. And on my return flight, instead of doing a direct flight, I took a later flight that had a layover. So I was not going to be back in town in time for his game. And when I found out I was away, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna miss it. And I'm looking on I'm doing the air flight changes. I'm like, you know what? I can leave at 6 a.m. and I can get in and I can come and I'm gonna have to spend more money in order to get there. And so my son says, Mom, he says, it's okay. He says, take the original flight and go home and rest. And I'm like, really? He was like, yeah, mom, go rest. And so again, I want to applaud him for pretty much he gave me permission to not to rush. But what it did, I was dealing with mom guilt, but at some point I have to get to a place where I'm like, you know what? I did all I could do. I set you up for success as best as I could, and I need to take a break, and my son's going to be okay.
Yes, it's very important. And in doing so, they grow,
Yes.
right? They grow. One day he'll be father, right?
Yeah.
He will have a story to tell his children as well. And we learn our stories to share that way as well. That, like you said, mom guilt, I had plenty. A lot of times I had an auto accident and I couldn't go to their games and stuff. I would be in so much physical pain. And I would be so grateful if a neighbor or some other athlete or a kid or some other kid's parents took them to event and stuff. So I know I missed out in a way. It was more guilt on me than they cared at that time, as long as they made it to the game.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Right? Yes. So that's a very good learning experience for all of us, right, in those processes. But I want to ask you, just wonderful conversation. Anything else in the work that you do, you would like to share something, a golden nugget or tip or a piece of advice for our viewers, especially the young people, boys, girls. I don't make the difference,
Yes.
and it has to be women empowerment. Our youth are precious.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many nuggets to share. And I guess the one thing that I like to say as an ending is it's a concept that I teach from and coach from, which is you get to create your experience in the world.
Yes.
And that can apply to any and every situation. Say, for instance, I'm trying to think of one that comes to mind. Let's say you want to graduate from a particular university with a particular degree, but no one from no one you know has ever gone there, and you hear the war stories of people who have tried.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean you don't attempt, and you create your path. Maybe you get a mentor. Maybe you get coaching. Maybe you set yourself up by, applying for different scholarships. Maybe you go to that summer program. Maybe you reach out directly to the university. Maybe you go for a visit. Maybe you move to that country or that area. We hear about a lot of the Olympic athletes who physically move across the country to train with the best of the best so that they are positioned to now take a spot on the Olympic team. There isn't anything that we cannot do, but what one way for sure of not getting there is not trying
Yes.
and accepting what someone else is telling you as opposed to you making an inquiry for yourself and creating a pathway for success.
Yeah. It comes back to mindset as well.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah. I'll share a story. Uh, I mentioned that I was separated. I was in the midst of a divorce, and my at least one of my kids was in between both households, him and me and his father. And it was important to me to have a family vacation where both of my children were together. And when I went to renew my driver's license, I found out that my passport was expired and I had planned on going out of the country with both kids. And I only had 2 weeks before travel. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to go out of town, out of the country with an expired passport. There's just no way that that's going to happen. And I set on my sights on, okay, you know what? I'm going to get this passport renewed in these 2 weeks. I had no idea how I was going to do it. And I ended up, and some of the options was flying, and it was right after COVID. And so you couldn't just go to the passport office. And I ended up booking a flight to go to a different passport office in a different state that had an appointment, and ended up not having to do that. But I ended up now going to my local. I had to talk to my representative, my governor. I got an appointment. To make a long story short, I was able to get my passport renewed in time to make the trip. And that experience showed me that if I set my mind on anything and ask questions and tell people what I'm trying to do, and then they're telling me, okay, you know what? I know somebody who knows somebody who's done it this other way. Try it this way. I'm like, okay, thank you. And so I go down that road. I turn over all of the stones to find the answer to now I'm able to get exactly what I wanted. That process I apply to everything in my life. And that's what, if you're under the sound of my voice, do not accept no for an answer. Never quit. Never take down. Never believe you can't, because there's someone who can help you do exactly what you're trying to do.
Exactly. Exactly. That's first you inspire yourself. When you are motivated, things would fall in place.
Mhm, mhm.
Things will fall in place. Beautiful message. I know you have shared a couple of gifts for our audience. One is the top 100 beliefs, and then you also have your books that people can visit the page. We'll share here with our audience. And I really appreciate you spending time with me today. And thank you so much for this lively conversation. And please keep us posted if there is any big event happening. We'll love to bring you back and, share with our audience. And in the meantime, a lot of success to you. Continue what you do.
Thank you so much, Ritu, for inviting me onto your Women of Power podcast. So much good nuggets and so much power in what it is that you bring. I would love to come back, and I would love to interview you on a future show as well.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And for our listeners and audience out there, please check out drmarcia.com, and we'll share her top 100 beliefs, her free gift to you. And until next time, I am host Ritu Chopra. Thank you for listening to this episode. We hope that information our guest has shared is helpful and you are taking away valuable tips and knowledge. We are committed to supporting women and building cause-driven businesses that create positive impact in their communities. Join us in the movement for change. Take action now and be part of Let's Come Together movement. Together, we can recognize, celebrate, and empower women who are making a difference in today's economy. Connect with passionate and powerful women, collaborate on cause-driven businesses, and build a better future for our community.